I'm live. Um, if you can hear me and you see this video, just type yes if you can hear me. Anyways, I'm just gonna give my take about what's going on in Venezuela. So I was at work. You know, I'm hearing coworkers talking, and they're talking some stupid shit. They're talking, yeah, you know, the drugs and the fentanyl and everything, and I'm just sitting there, and I realize that most people don't understand what happened in Venezuela. That's a chess move. That's not the drugs. That never had anything to do with it. The amount of fentanyl that was coming out of the amount of fentanyl that was coming out of Venezuela or whatever drugs were coming out. Most of those drugs actually head off to Europe. Um, I mean, a lot of the boats that were getting hit, they weren't heading toward the states, and they weren't heading across to Puerto Rico. They were actually heading across to like Trinidad and the islands so that they can get shipped out to Europe. But because most of the drugs that come into the states, everybody knows this, and the data shows it. Most of it comes up through Central America or through boats, the submarines out of Cuba. I mean, not Cuba, out of Colombia. So getting back to what happened. First of all, it's just been an unfriendly regime that's been in power in Venezuela for what, 20 plus years or so. First Hugo Chavez, and then Maduro took over after Hugo turned the reins, or when he died, I guess. And Maduro took over. But the key reason is over the last, what, 10, 15 years, China's been making serious inroads into pretty much all of Central and South America in their projects, you know, their civilian projects, which always seem to always have a dual use that they could be using in the future, or get these countries in debt. And Venezuela was a prime candidate for them because Venezuela is a hostile country, can affect the entire Caribbean region. It can affect shipping going through the Panama Canal. It can project power if it got to that point, especially if it joined BRICS and it was part of a Russian-Chinese alliance. And it was well known that the Russians were there, and so were, you know, I'm not saying military personnel, but there was contacts within the military, Russian personnel and Chinese personnel and Iranian personnel. So what you're seeing is, like Trump said in his, I guess in his presser, he was talking about the Monroe Doctrine and calling it now the Donroe Doctrine, or like I say is Monroe Plus 2.0, or I think you can call it the Trump Doctrine. Maybe in 50 to 100 years, school kids will be learning about the Trump Doctrine, which was just the Monroe Doctrine on steroids. But what you saw was a chess move. So let me explain what I'm seeing and what I think is going to happen. I think Cuba's next. And I think they want to get, Cuba was the primary target that they want to do eventually. But they realized that Venezuela was the patron, was supplying aid to Cuba. And also, it works out to their interest to get rid of Maduro and to take Venezuela, in a sense, to make it a friendly power that does what the U.S. wants it to do. So, hear me out in what I'm saying. Let's take it all the pros that what happens for Trump now. This basically puts all the great powers of the world on notice that, one, the U.S. is back, because pretty much over the last 5 years we've gotten the reputation of kind of being a paper tiger, especially with, let's not deny it, the losses of their client state of Ukraine, because no matter what you want to say, U.S. is involved. I don't mean like military is involved on the ground, but that's a U.S. proxy war, and they're losing. And it's whether the media wants to report it or not, it's well known. If you follow the military channels that are following the progress in Ukraine, basically since the winter of 2023, after the great failed summer counteroffensive by the Ukrainians, and then the Russians went on the offensive starting in the fall and winter of that year in 2023, and then they had the success in Bakhmut over that winter into the spring, and then the real offensive started in the summer of 2024, and it's just continued. The Russians are gaining ground, and they're gaining ground on a faster basis every day. And this war is not a territory war, meaning, yes, they're gaining ground, but Russia stated from the day one that they're not trying to seize the entire country, whether they might in the end, but they're not trying to seize. They're trying to just kill as many as Ukrainians that want to fight them as possible, because they want to demilitarize the country. Anyways, I'm getting off subject. Squirrel. The main point is, the U.S. has been, and the Western allies have been having taking an L in Ukraine so far, and so this is a big win. And all these great powers, these other powers, regional powers, they're going to take notice. One is, it tells everybody, get the hell out of South America, and it makes all the regional leaders in South America, they're all going to take notice that to not FAFO, fuck around and find out. We heard over the last couple months the president of Colombia was kind of talking smack, and Trump said, hey, when we're done with Venezuela, you might be next. And so I'm not thinking that the U.S. is going to go into Colombia. I honestly don't. But what it is I'm pretty sure that president of Colombia, I bet you he was woken up at 4 a.m. by his aide. He probably woke up and said, what the hell are you waking me up for? And they're like, Mr. President, the Americans bombed Caracas and snatched up Maduro. I mean, that's going to make other leaders start taking notice and go, oh shit, I might be next on the hit list, in a sense. So it's going to make other countries in South America start, I don't want to say toe the line, but they're going to be more amenable to things the U.S. wants done. And if the U.S. says, hey, kick the Chinese out, or kick the Russians out, or we don't want these people having a base there, or we don't want them having any kind of projects there, you're going to get countries that are going to take notice, and they're probably going to probably start towing the line, in a sense. They're going to listen, because at the end of the day, even the president of a country, he's got a family, he wants to live. So it puts all the leaders of these countries in South America on notice. It also Central America as well, but the big thing is and everybody knows about the oil, because Venezuela, I think, has one of the largest, if not the largest, proven reserves of oil in the world. First of all, it'll help the U.S. if we have a great war, meaning another world war, like World War III, and it's not nuclear. Let's say it stays conventional. You've got that close oil supply besides your own domestic supply, so you don't have to try to be getting oil from Saudi Arabia. And your tankers are being knocked out. Right then, if you have the entire Caribbean under your control, effective protection, you can get tankers from there to Houston, to the oil refineries, and it's a short travel distance. I mean, granted, there's always submarines and stuff like that, and I mean, if we had a major war, but you understand my thinking is, if you look at it just on a map, Venezuela is a lot closer than the Middle East oil. So, got to take that into account. Second thing is, and people aren't really talking about this, is you've seen the price of silver go through the roof, right? I mean, if you look right now, price of silver is through the roof. And there's a whole host of reasons. But silver is a strategic metal, and for example, and I'm just talking off the top of my head, I might have this number completely wrong, but I believe for like every missile, like a Tomahawk missile, it uses like 5 pounds of silver in its electronics. So, first of all, it makes that missile much more expensive. If silver used to be basically $30 an ounce, and now it's sitting at close to, $73 to $75 an ounce. I mean, that makes your missile 2.5 times, well, at least the silver part, 2.5 times more expensive. And it's used in just about everything. It's like one of the best conductive metals for electricity. and for electronics in the world. So it's a strategic metal. And Venezuela actually has large reserves of silver and gold and a whole host of other important metals if you have a war. So take that into account. I think that plays a part in there too. Now, the most important reason, the thing that I think was going to happen next, is Secretary of State is Marco Rubio. But I believe about a couple months ago, Trump appointed him to his National Security Advisor or National Security Council. And basically, besides the job of Secretary of State, Rubio gets to whisper in Trump's ear every day. And Marco Rubio has had a hard-on for Cuba since the first time I even heard of him. I mean, as a senator, I mean, he's been talking about Cuba for a long time. I mean, his family is from Cuba, and he's stated many times that that the U.S. has to do something and we should free up the island. So now that Venezuela can't be the patron and can't assist Cuba, and you've got all your forces in theater. It's taken months for them to get all these forces in theater, everything from the aircraft carriers and all the ships and the planes and the troops. Don't be surprised if in the coming weeks, if not sooner, that whole strike group and all those forces now start moving over toward Cuba and surround the island, and he announces a blockade of the island, a complete blockade, and starts doing the same things to Cuba, and that we see a regime change in Cuba. I think that's an end goal right there. And it's important, besides the whole political aspect of Marco Rubio wanting it, and just the whole fact that it's been a communist country in our sphere since the mid-60s, and it's outlived multiple administrations, even though they've tried getting the island to the people to overthrow its own government. I think if the U.S. was going to do it, now's the time. And so I'm trying to think. I'm trying to gather my thoughts how I'm going to say this. I think it's a go. I think they're going to move the forces over to Cuba. And this is what I was going to say about Cuba. Besides the whole political aspect and the people aspect and the fact that it's a communist regime and whatnot, is that, I mean, if it was an actual enemy country, and it was hosting Chinese troops or Chinese weaponry and Russian weaponry, and we had a World War III, you don't want an enemy country right in the middle of the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic and the Panama Canal. That island could affect all the shipping. It also affects shipping in the Gulf. It also affects shipping throughout the Caribbean Sea. You remove that piece and you make it a friendly territory by changing a regime and installing a friendly government. And now, if you look on a map, it's the whole from North America to South America. There's free, not free, but safe transit in a sense. If we were in a World War situation, which it highly looks like that in the next 5 years, we're gonna, within the next 5 years, there will be a showdown in Taiwan, and the Japanese will get involved, and we'll get involved, and so I think this administration is setting all the pieces in motion, or at least putting all the pieces on the chessboard, that they're trying to secure the United States. And that also deals with Greenland, because we all know about all the drugs coming out of Greenland. I'm joking, but you watch, they're going to come up with some excuse. Well, no, Trump's actually said it straight out, that it's a strategic matter for the United States. But if you look on a map from north to south, from the top where Greenland is and Canada, North America, not North America, but America and Mexico and down through the Central America and all the way south and to South America, then the U.S. would effectively have control of the whole thing, except for Brazil, which is a founding member of BRICS. But this might be putting Brazil on notice. And I don't think Brazil's too scared, because they've actually got a very large military and I want to say probably a quite competent military, but it's never been in war, it's never been tested. And a lot has to be said about, militaries that have experience, and obviously the U.S. has had lots of experience over the last 60 plus or 70 years since World War II. I don't think any generation has been living without that we haven't done some military intervention. Anyways, that's my take. I think that this was all a chess move. Besides, the drug aspect, but it was a chess move. It puts the other countries on notice. It puts the countries in South America on notice. And the next piece is going to be Cuba. And that's my take. So I hope you guys enjoyed my opinion, and like and subscribe. And I'm going to be trying to put out more content. And this is something I want to do fun. My family gets sick of hearing me just rant about shit like this, and they're not interested, just like most people aren't interested. But if you're watching this, you're probably interested, talking about geopolitics and how the world turns. You guys have a good one. Take care. How do I turn this off? Okay. Jesus Christ, how do I turn this off?